Hello and welcome to episode 531 of Fergo and the Freak. I'm that bloke from Rugby League Project, Andrew Ferguson. You can follow me on Twitter at AndrewRLP. Join me as always is the glorious LeagueFreak. You can also find on Twitter at LeagueFreak. How you going there, mate?
I'm going very well, Andrew. How are you?
I'm going very well too, Andrew.
Excellent. Oh my God, now everyone knows my name's Andrew. Let's terrify people that have iPhones.
Yes, let's do that.
Do you want to do that? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, if you're listening, you got an iPhone. Now, first of all, let me say beforehand, this didn't apply to me. I didn't care about this, but I thought it was funny when I saw it posted. Okay. So whether you've got an iPhone or maybe somebody you're with has an iPhone, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go to your Messages app, right? I want you to click on it, open it up, all right? Now, in the top left-hand corner, it says Edit, okay? Just click on that. Now, go to the bottom of that list that's just come up, and it says Show Recently Deleted, and click on that. And there's all of the things that you thought you deleted off your phone. You're welcome.
So, can you delete it off that list?
I believe you can.
Okay. And then does that just get added to the bottom of the list?
It just goes to the bottom of the list. Let me find one too. Okay, so I'll delete, say this one, delete. It says this message will be permanently deleted. This action cannot be undone. Now keep in mind, because I went through a thing on my phone and started deleting heaps of older messages, and there was nothing special there. It was just old messages because it said I was getting towards the limit of what I could store. So I thought I'll delete them. This message will be permanently deleted. This action cannot be undone. Yeah, it said that when I deleted it the first time. Okay?
It's still there.
Yeah, so if you want to freak someone out, right, you just go into the next room and say, hey, can you just bring up and do that? Just go through what I said. Open your app, go to the top left-hand corner, press edit, then go down to deleted messages. Just show me what's in there.
So my question now is that still saved on your phone storage, or is that saved on cloud storage, which means it's on the Apple servers?
You know what, Andrew? No one fucking knows. Because I deleted all these I had things from parcel deliveries and stuff, and I'm deleting them like crazy, and I'm like, why is my storage still the same thing?
So it is saved on your phone then?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So how about that? Congratulations, everyone with an iPhone. You're fucked.
Well, that's why I don't have an iPhone.
Yeah.
That's great. It's great.
It is great, isn't it?
Security.
So I don't have to worry about anything like that. It's just like, but I tell you what, there'll be people right now that are listening to that fucking sweating.
Yeah. There'll be lots of scorned partners going through their other partners' mobile phones now.
Yeah.
Relationships are being burned everywhere.
So crazy, hey?
It is. You know what? Speaking of relationships being burned, should we just dive straight into the drama that's going on with the Keighley Cougars?
Let's do it. Now, I don't know anything about it, and you're going to tell me about this, and because I saw there was blow-ups, and yes. I just didn't – I was like, I don't want to I don't want to have to look up what's going on about this tiny little club in a tiny little town in Northern England, but we're going to talk about it now. So
we will.
The deal is.
And I must admit too, I didn't know anything about it either until probably about an hour ago, and I thought I'll just look into it because people are blowing up about it, and I thought, you know what? I'm just sitting here doing fuck all. I'm just going to read about it and see what happens. And I went, yeah, this is pretty bad. So
let's call this a deep dive because everyone calls any time they look at anything a deep dive, hey?
Yeah, okay. We'll go a deep dive. All right.
Okay.
Deep dive starting with absolutely zero fucking knowledge. So, yeah. Keighley Cougars on July 9, so this is yesterday, they put out a stock standard, very limited statement about the fact they sacked their coach.
Okay.
A few people online started to get a bit cranky about it.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I'm not going to go through their comments. Yeah. But it prompted them later on, seriously, just a few hours later, it prompted them to go, you know what? We're going to pull out this even more thorough, detailed, deep dive response and explain as to why this has happened. Because I think a lot of the comments that were coming in were supporting the coach who just got sacked.
Okay, now, just before we get into this, keep in mind the way the vast majority of English rugby league is that the club is normally owned by some local businessman. And because they're not very expensive clubs, that businessman isn't always like a Fortune 500 businessman. He can be like just own a concreting business or something that's doing all right and he bought the club, you know. So sometimes you get people owning these clubs that are a little bit different.
Yeah. Right. So Matt Foster was the coach. He was the one who got sacked. Their director of football is Jake Webster. Mm-hmm. So he's taking over as the interim coach.
Okay.
So we will go through the full statement. It's a bit wordy, okay, but we have to do it.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So to start off with this. We've been following comments on social media as well as direct communications to the club from supporters. We're dismayed with the level of hostility received. The club is run and has been since 2019, with every decision being in the best interest of the Keighley Cougars. No man is bigger than this club, and if it has to become so, as has happened in the past, the club will fail.
Okay, I like it so far.
Yeah. In 2023, we parted ways with the previous coach. We kept the reasons why private and put out a generic statement of it being results-based.
Okay.
We took a lot of heat for this, with fans understandably questioning why. We can tell you now that in firing a coach means dealing with a human who deserves to be protected so he can rebuild his career. We therefore kept back the various reasons why. The then coach was causing levels of disruption behind the scenes that no employer would tolerate. We regret we kept it under wraps as the coach got a free pass and the club suffered for it.
Okay, I don't mind it so far. I would have left out why they got rid of the previous coach, but I don't mind it so far. It's a little bit edgy already.
Yeah,
is what I'm saying. Okay,
it's building.
Okay, Jesus.
So we have just made the same mistake again, putting out a generic statement which has caused fans anger and open hostility to the people who run, pay, and keep professional rugby league alive in this town. The level of hostility in the last few hours has crossed the line, and we are no longer willing to take this level of abuse. So, we will explain further why we took the decision to part with Matt, and hopefully you will see there is more to running a club than what is seen on the surface.
I'm getting worried now.
Yeah, this is where we've gone behind the curtain, and there's a curtain for a reason.
Yeah, I've got nothing to add to what you said. It was perfect.
Right. First, we start with a bit of wanking and pissing in pockets,
okay,
which you know is disingenuous because they just sacked the guy.
Everything before the word "but." Yes.
To begin with, we want to stress our thanks to Matt for moving to the UK to coach the Cougars last year. Matt was given a generous package to move, including housing, car, flights, bills, and a salary. Matt has been fiercely loyal to the club, which no one can decry, and his heritage at the club makes this so much harder. In the close season,
yeah,
Matt returned to Australia and recruitment was left to Jake Webster, who worked hard to build us a great squad within budget. On return to the UK, there was a level of hostility to Jake from Matt about the signings he had made. Matt disagreed strongly with signing Brandon Pickersgill, and this caused significant internal tension between Jake and Matt. Jake agreed terms with other championship players, which Matt refused to engage with, and the club lost out as a result, so they didn't get those players. This reached a crescendo in May when Jake proposed signing George Flanagan. Matt refused to engage with it. Jake came to us asking for permission to overrule the coach and sign George. We agreed with Jake that George would be a massive benefit to the club. Jake advised Matt that the board had given him permission to sign George, at which stage Matt threatened to resign if the signing happened. We signed George, and after his first game, Matt agreed we had a star and he would eat humble pie.
Oof.
It's getting a little messy.
Yeah, it's starting to get a little bit... it's going from operational differences of opinion to being a bit personal.
Yes. There's more.
Okay.
Jake negotiated to sign Mitch Revel for the club. Matt did not engage, and it took 3 months to get Mitch to the club, only because Jake, at the end of his tether, sought board approval to overrule Matt's reluctance to engage with Mitch. The attitude to championship players Jake proposed to bring to the Cougars continued to be rejected out of hand by Matt. We were frustrated that as a board, the refusal to engage with top quality players negotiated by Jake were being blocked by the coach. Any coach's dream should be to sign top players. Disengagement from that rang alarm bells for us.
Oh. I've got to say, can we just pause it there? And when it started off by saying that the coach went back to Australia and he left the recruitment to the football manager, I personally thought, oh, that's a bit weird, but maybe that's how they do it over there. But obviously, that's continued when he's gone back to a certain degree, according to the club.
That appears to be the case, yes. Yes. Clearly things were not going well, so we held a meeting with Jake and Matt. We advised Matt that Jake was director of rugby and was to be respected and responsible for recruitment. Matt accepted he had not understood the roles fully and that he would work more closely with Jake, which kind of just proves what you just said. We therefore appointed Jake to the board to formalise their positions and set out that Jake was the ultimate boss in everything rugby related.
I don't know about that. Like, the coach should be the ultimate boss at the end of the day. But, look, I could see where in the lower grades you do need somebody that's more connected to the player pool that's available and the budget you're working within, and is maybe beyond that level of a coach. But any club saying anybody other than the coach is the final boss is really, like, the only time that a coach should not think they're the final boss is when the person that owns the club says, I'm the fucking boss here, you're fired. You know what I mean?
Yeah, or Phil Gould's there. We hoped things would improve. They didn't. Jake would call us to complain he was getting no communication from the coach. Jake requested training schedules so he could check on deliverables. These were never provided. Jake requested a plan for progression of the season. These also were never provided. Jake would meet with senior players and assistant coaches in his role as director of rugby to get feedback on how things were going for them at the club and if there's anything we as a club can do to make their time here better. Matt took strong objection to this, causing further issues.
That's interesting. So he doesn't like them talking to his assistant coaches.
Yeah, or even the players.
According to the club.
According to the club.
Yes.
We were becoming more concerned about performances. We lost to Hunslet at home. We should have lost to Midlands. That's a weird one.
Yeah, that's a strange thing to say.
Oh, I see. As they had a try disallowed, which likely was a try. So they're putting Midlands over there, saying, poor old Midlands. We won and we shouldn't have. We struggled to put a decent score in against Cornwall. We almost lost against Rochdale away. And on Sunday, we drew with Rochdale at home. Had these results gone the other way, which they could have done by the bounce of a ball, then we would be mid-table now, worrying about being in the finals. On Sunday, we were dismayed to see George Flanagan was kept off for the first half of the game and Dan Parker on the bench. After the game, Matt advised us that he could no longer work with Jake and gave an ultimatum that either Jake goes or he goes.
Uh-oh.
This is going to end well.
Yeah.
We spent the rest of the evening asking opinions from senior players and staff. The feedback was that training was poor, strategy was lacking, and that a change in head coach might be necessary.
Wow.
I just want to pause there for a second. I'm just going to go over to the see how Keighley's been going in the lower grades.
Okay.
So they're in League One at the moment. So they're struggling. What did they say there? The training was poor, strategy was lacking. Right. Do you know where they are on the ladder at the moment?
Are they in first place?
They're in first place.
How many by?
Only by 1 point.
Okay.
But they've played 13 games, had 11 wins, 1 draw and a loss.
Wow.
Their points differential is plus 292.
Wow.
You could probably argue that Oldham, who is second, are probably better because they've had 11 wins and a loss. They've played one less game.
Mm-hmm.
Their points difference, so Keighley's was 292. Oldham's is plus 421.
Holy shit.
But there's Rochdale is third, and they've had 8 wins. So they've had 3 wins less than the top 2.
Okay.
It's
a 2-horse race, and they've
blown them away.
They're both flying, basically.
They are flying.
Yeah.
So yeah, strategy's lacking there.
Yeah.
The team coming first.
Yeah.
Therefore, on Monday, we had a board meeting where we had to face the reality that things were not right and that things were getting worse. We knew it would be controversial, but as we have the best interest of this club at heart, we agreed we had to part with Matt. This is a very difficult statement to put out, and we regret having to do so, but there have been some things that have happened over the last 2 hours that has given us no option, and some things we will not tolerate. And they've put here 4 points. Things that they will not tolerate. You ready for these?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Number 1, attacks on Jake Webster. This man has been the best thing to happen to the Keighley Cougars for decades. He works 14-hour days, makes things happen that no one else involved in this club could. He's been a staunch ally from the day he took the plunge to join the club. If the Ferns turn on Jake Webster, then we as a collective have lost faith in Keighley Cougars.
I would love to know who wrote this statement. Was it
the owner? It's the owner.
Okay.
Yeah. Point number 2, Steve Watkinson, who is essentially CEO of the club, has worked harder by 1,000,000 miles than anyone we have had previously in the role. He's brought in sponsors, professionalised all our operations, and is a support to every off-field staff. He deserves thanks for what he does, not abuse. Number 3. I don't know where this one comes from, but that's because I haven't looked into it.
Okay.
Homophobia against us, which has come from our own fans today, which we have never had before. We have given blood, sweat, tears, and money to this club. We do what we do to give this town a club that aims to be the best. If this is how you feel about us, then we are done.
I feel like I saw the Cougars were involved in some sort of gay pride thing, and it wasn't gay pride, but it was some. You know what it might have been? It might have been about supporting.
Was it a trans athlete?
Yeah, that's trans athletes maybe playing in women's competitions or something like that. Now, I don't know the full story, but I just remember seeing something like that, and my guess is that that's what they're talking about.
I believe it was something along those lines, and so it angered a lot of female fans because they don't want to have the female fans who are angered didn't want to have trans people playing in the female division.
Yeah, it was dangerous.
Yeah. So the 4th one, threats to boycott the club. If you believe one man is bigger than the club, then this club is in jeopardy. You either back this club 100% like we do, or you can walk away and eventually everything is lost. We hope you can consider what we have to deal with behind the scenes. If the fans want a club that is mid-table, League One, then we can deliver to that. It will be much less stressful and significantly less expensive. We personally want better. It's time for you all to decide what you want for this club.
And is that the end of the statement?
That is the end of the statement.
Okay. I want to hear your thoughts first.
Okay. The owner who wrote this, don't write anything else ever again about this club other than financial statements and who's won all the awards at the end of the year. This ain't it. Okay, what you've done here is you've made yourself impossible to find new head coaches, and you're currently in search of a new head coach. Right? You've explained some of how the process is run there. A new coach is going to come in and go, right, I don't have control of this club. So how am I going to sign the players I want when you've got somebody else doing that? So I've got no control, so you're not going to get an elite coach. Do you think you think any coach who's currently in the NRL, except Trent Barrett, would go over there and sign to be the coach of that club, knowing that they don't have any say over what the roster is going to look like? Someone else is organising that.
I would say no, but I also, as I said before, I could see where a football team at that level needs somebody that, like, because coaches come and go at that sort of level. Because a coach, their focus is not, there's no coach in the entire world that says, I want to be the Cougars coach and that's it, right? They're all using the club as a stepping stone, hopefully, in their eyes, to end up at a higher level, which means that they've all got very short-term thinking, which means that they're not all sitting down and, scoping the landscape at that level of football. And so I can see where a club at that level needs somebody to have that role. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm fine with that too. But okay. I don't know that you would be making it public that that's how it would operate behind the scenes. That's kind of what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I understand that completely. I just wonder if that's just how it operates at that level.
It might do.
Yeah.
But that's the sort of stuff that I'd keep in-house. Look, when a coach turns up and say, right, this is how we do things here, and you tell them, and you say, do you have any issues with that? And if you do, what do you think we could do to make this work for you? And see if there's a way you can make that system functional for everybody so you get the coach.
Yeah.
But by putting it out like that, every coach is going to look at it and go, well, that's like ironclad how it is there. I don't really like that.
Yeah, I see point of view. Yeah. And that,
you're kind of stuck.
It needs to be.
You're turning away coaches before they've walked through the door is what you're doing. That's what I'm getting at.
And look, that relationship needs to, at the very least, feel like a partnership, even if at the base level it's not. A coach can't be going in and saying, well, it can't feel like to whoever the next coach is, there's your players, you go coach them, I give you your team and you coach them, and that's the only role you have. It needs to at least feel like much more than that.
Correct. So I think that was bad form on their behalf. The fact that they sided with Jake Webster on a few signings, when I think the better play would have been to bring the coach in and to say to him, why do you not want to sign these players? And get the coach's perspective and his opinion, because he might be looking at somebody else that he wanted to spend that money on instead.
Yeah, and at the very least, and they didn't mention it in their statement, and we're only getting one side of the story, but I wonder if they ever gave the coach anything that he wanted in terms of potential players that he wanted to target. Yeah,
that's the thing. It's not made clear. What's made clear is the club sided with Jake Webster a lot.
Yeah, they did.
They didn't consult with the coach, Matt Foster, a great deal during any of these times where there was conjecture. And that's what I'm getting out of this, which is another thing that's you should be keeping in-house, because now another coach is going to come in and go, oh, well, I don't get to pick the team, and if I don't like who they've selected, they're not going to listen to what I have to say, and they'll probably just sack me anyway. All you're doing is painting a worse and worse picture for yourself when it comes to trying to get interest from a potential new coach, let alone signing one.
And look, at the end of the day, they gave Webster is now the coach. Yeah. So, and it seems like he's maybe the best person for that role, considering everything that they've said about themselves. Listening to this statement, I feel like my opinion's a little bit different, but at the same time, I agree with everything you said. I actually like the transparency to a certain degree. I think that it's pretty well thought out for the most part. It's not too disparaging against the coach that they just sacked, in terms of they feel as though they're sacking him for poor performance, not so much in terms of wins and losses, but in terms of other areas that his coaching should entail, right?
Yeah, they've kept it strictly to the job. They haven't made anything personal here.
Yeah,
it's strictly job related, which is that's fine.
And I think that their focus on where they want the club to be and the future of the club and things like that, I think there were some really, really good points there. But at the same time, when you said keep it all in-house, it's hard to argue with that. And you just cop the barbs for the next couple of weeks or couple of months. If the team keeps winning cures everything, so whoever the next coach was going to be, as long as they stay the course, they're going to keep winning, and winning cures everything. In a couple of months' time from now, if they're still leading the competition, no one's going to care. All these people that are upset right now that the coach got sacked, no one's going to care, right?
That's right.
And that's what it comes down to. So I kind of see both sides of it. That's a weird thing for me. If it was my club, I would feel like I appreciate the transparency. Oh my God, this feels like a bit of a circus. And I just think at the end of the day, none of this feels good. But at the same time, maybe the club felt like they were not in a good position anyway with everything that was going on, and they had to make a call. It's a weird one, isn't it? At the very least, it's a weird situation.
Well, there's two other things for me, okay, and that is by putting out a detailed statement like this, the people who want to shit on the club now have more and more information to use to pile more shit on the club.
True.
So you're not going to alleviate the volume of shit that's coming towards you. You're just making it more intense, 100%, and you've given them more option to fling more at you.
Mm-hmm.
The other one is there is some, criticisms, almost attacks on the fans. And I don't know. I see what they're trying to say, and I'm not opposed to the message and what they're trying to get across. But sometimes it's best to just leave the fans out of it. Like if you had said, we're just going to address why we did what we did so that you, the fans, can understand, that would be fine. But to then say, you can stay with us or you can walk away, blah, 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 blah. That's not good, okay? It takes me back to a time, what was it, 2012, I think it was. Tim Sheens was copying a lot of shit from a lot of the West Tigers supporters.
Mm-hmm.
And he came out and he called the people who were criticising the club and criticising him, he called them so-called fans.
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah. And going, that's the thing you don't do.
No.
Right? You can say whatever you want about other players, other clubs, blah, 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 blah. The fans don't care about that. They'll ride with you on that. But as soon as you shit on the fans in any extent, they'll go, fuck you, you're done.
True. And like, I was just thinking, like, where's a situation where a club should be maybe focusing on the fans with that sort of energy? And I think about when you've got, say, crowd violence, ongoing crowd violence at your games. And even in that situation, we've seen, like, in that situation, it should be saying to the fans, please stop, because we all just want this team to win and we don't want any distractions. And so if you could please stop, that would be great. If you turn that into, and you're costing us games, all of a sudden you've got an us versus them situation, and it's almost inflames it all. And you also get people that have the mindset of like, fuck you, anybody that's maybe on the fence that has that mindset of like, I love the club. Hey, fuck you fucking telling us what to do. You do your job and we'll, So it's, it creates something that's not good. It creates a relationship with your fan base that can turn pretty sour quickly.
That's right. And so now I worry that if more and more criticisms come across to the Keighley Cougars over this, that people are going to prod and push and criticise, and they're going to start asking the same few questions over and over again, thinking that, we did it last time, we got an answer. So now we're just going to keep pushing those buttons all the time, and it creates just this hostile environment where people are going to demand answers and expect them.
You also have a situation where if Webster doesn't want to be the coach And look, if he wants to be the coach, that's his role now. But if he doesn't want to be the coach, if he feels that's not his place at the club, and they start looking for a new coach, as soon as that new coach is signed, they now have to address all of those things that happened before publicly. Mm-hmm. And it's not a real fun start for any coach.
No. So yeah, it's I'm like you. I'm not opposed to some of the things that they've said that they've done in there and how they've tried to alleviate this and the fact they want to try and be transparent. But I'm just reading it going, you found yourself in a hole and you thought the best way to fix this is to fill it in with the dirt that I'm standing on. Let me get a shovel and keep digging some dirt out of this hole and just bury myself. Yeah. It's just it's a mess that they're just making worse and worse for themselves. So sometimes it is just better to be quiet.
Yes, I agree. And it's a strange situation. I can see where if you owned a club, I'd be one of those people that wanted to put out statements like this, I'll be honest. And it's not good for the club because it causes so much of a ruckus, whether it's right or wrong.
Yeah.
But that's why I think that it's important to have people around you that are willing to say no. You got to have people around you that are willing to say no. You'd be my person that I'd go to that, like, should I do this, Andrew?
Yeah.
And if you said no, yeah, seriously. And
that's right though.
You'd be my no person because you're right. I think that I can see where the owner felt like this was a fantastic statement. And even as you're reading it, I think there's a lot of it's fantastic. But at the end of the day, what you said was so true. You don't give any extra details. You get on with the job. And in a couple of months' time, it'll all just be by the by, you know? Man, that's a strange one, hey?
That's right. I mean, look, case in point, I mean, the fact is, we both remember when Tim Sheens called Rugby League fans for the Tigers so-called fans, and that was over a decade ago.
Yeah.
It stays in your head.
Yeah. Look, I mean, you and me had talked on DMs back then, but we hadn't talked like we do now. And, like that, I mean, that pisses me off. You brought that up, and I'm like, fuck that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's no surprise that he was sacked before the season was, or before the year was out.
Yeah,
when that happened.
Yeah, never to return. Things really turned around after that.
Well, he made sure he left it in the same way he found it.
Yeah,
like all good super coaches do.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so that was a good bit of drama and mess from over there in England. What else has been going on in England?
Yeah, that's a strange one. Look, I saw a thing earlier. It was only a couple of hours ago. The Rugby Football League put out a statement saying they were going to do some restructuring and some layoffs within the Rugby Football League, and I believe their commercial arm that they set up maybe 8 months, 10 months ago. I can't remember. I remember us talking about it, but it didn't feel like that long ago. And I just don't care. Like, I could have looked it up, but it doesn't really matter because nothing's going to change. Like, there might be some people, very few people that lose their jobs. None of the people that are the real problems. And, restructuring, it's just corporate speak. But nothing's going to change. And it just pissed me off because, we've seen so many bullshit ideas, and like they changed the Super League logo, and they've had different finals formats, and then promotion and relegations in and out, and then it's back in again, and now it's going back out, and they've got IMG on board, and like none of it fucking matters because it's all circling the drain anyway. So why invest any time looking it up? Basically, that was how I felt about it. Especially when you look at the last few weeks where, we've had an international game between England and France that drew a few hundred people. They posted a crowd of 4,000. They posted 4,500, by the way. I watched the game. There were a few hundred people.
4,500 people apparently.
Yes, so outrageous they put that crowd there. And between that and like Magic Weekend heading to far-flung fucking Elland Road in Leeds next year, and the Challenge Cup final is getting fewer people going to it in London year after year. And just so many things, like the playing numbers are going down. There's so many things that are all trending in the wrong direction, and it's been going that way for 50 plus years. So none of it matters. So, restructure another thing. Why not? Fuck it. Who cares? That's where I'm at with British Rugby League, unfortunately.
Yeah, look, there's only so many times we can give them ideas to fix everything.
Yeah. I did a tweet earlier today where if you were really going to fix it, if you were going to fix British Rugby League, the only thing you could probably keep is the rule book. You would have to go in with a thing that shows the structure of rugby league in Australia and how that works, and say to them, from now on, this is how we're going to build the game over here. And at the end of the day, they don't want that. They do not want that. None of them want to be – nobody wants to be the clubs that develop the talent for the big league. Nobody wants to be the middle club on the way to a youngster who played for you for 12 months and then ended up playing for the lower grade junior system of an NRL club. None of them want that. They all want to be the greatest club in the world. Just ask them, and they're all just happy doing what they're doing. And that's cool. It's killing the game over there. They don't care. So just let them keep doing what they're doing, and that's it. That's what they want. You can't force them to want something different.
No, that's right. In the past, we've talked about ideas to try and fix up English Rugby League, and I came up with an even better idea recently, and that is we don't go to England and fix that. We just go and create an NRL in France.
Yeah.
And we just make France better.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then France can just say to England, we don't want to play test matches against you. No offense, but we just want someone a bit more competitive.
Yeah, true. Look, let's look at it this way, though, right? Just say French Rugby League, because right now they've got the Catalan Dragons, who, by the way, all their best players are imports. Okay, we can't overlook that. Then you've got Toulouse. So you've got the two big guns, and they're at different levels of the game, but they're the two big clubs there. If you had just a couple more clubs that were of that strength of teams, you'd have more competitive teams than they have in England.
Well, I reckon you could just go to the Elite One competition. How many teams they got there? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They've got 10 teams there.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. All right. They cover most of France with those teams.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there's a Toulouse Olympic team there, so that's good. Is there a Catalan-based side there? I don't think there is. Beautiful. We'll take the Catalan. Let's be honest. England doesn't want them.
Yeah.
So we'll take Catalan Dragons, put them in there,
and
we'll merge the Toulouse side that's in Championship. We'll basically merge them in with the team that's in Elite One.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got 11 teams. Let's find a team from what's one part of France that we don't have represented here?
Marseille.
Paris.
Okay, Paris. Yeah, that's a good one.
All right, let's get a team from Paris in there. Maybe call them the Bears.
Why not?
Right. But we'll put a Paris team in there, right? We've got 12 teams.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. We've covered all of France, 12 teams. Bam. Let's do that. That can be 22 rounds. They play each other twice. Perfect. Home and away. 22 games. It's a shorter season what the English one's got, but it's fairer. It makes complete sense. There's none of that nonsense going up and down. And because we've got the same 12 teams, we cover every part of France. And literally every corner of France is covered, and in the centre, everywhere. We've got it all. So getting a TV deal's piece of cake. Right, lock it in. We've got all the basics done, and then all of a sudden, instead of sending, players from the NRL who, they can't find a club or they don't want to play in Australia for whatever reason, bam, you can go to France. Would you rather, as a rugby league player, would you rather go to France or would you rather go to England?
Exactly. I actually asked that of the Parramatta Eels lower grade junior about 15 years ago. And I said to them, because they were really honest about the level they could achieve. They knew they weren't going to make NRL level, but they were an all right lower level player. And I said to them, you could go over to England and have a career over there, but do you ever think about using your football ability to go and live in France or something like that? And they were like, yeah, that's a real, it opens up doors for me in that regard. They went down a different pathway, and it was they actually ended up coaching. But yeah, you would much rather go to France, and the money difference right now. The money difference is a sizable enough difference that you kind of go towards England for the money, but it's not a sizable enough difference that you could never see it changing. A few improvements in French Rugby League, and if it had a little bit more professionalism involved in it and things like that, it would very quickly, I think, catch and surpass what you could get in the lower grades in England as that sort of level of talent.
If they started out with this, this is a crazy idea, okay? But what you could do is just say, right, every team in Elite One, you phase this in casually, right?
Mm-hmm.
For the first 5 years, every team is allowed to have 3 or 4 NRL players, right, as part of their roster. And they will be paid for by the NRL, not by the club that they've left, by the NRL. The NRL pay their wage.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So the club doesn't have to pay that wage. It's not included in their cap or anything like that. NRL's got them covered for that one. And we do this for a few years till we get a bit more money coming into the French game. And then we go, right, NRL's now going to halve the number of players that you can have from the NRL that we will pay for. And then you do that for another 1 or 2 years, you get a bit more money in, you go, right, we're not going to do that anymore, but we're going to set up, complete 100% links between an NRL club and one of these Elite One teams. So you can transfer players between the two teams, and you don't have to worry about paying transfer fees. So, Penrith might be linked with Carcassonne. Right? If one or the other is missing a play, they had a run of injuries for halfbacks, and Penrith's got 4 of them and only 2 are getting regular time, the other 2 are struggling. Carcassonne can take 2 of their halves or 1 of their halves, and then they're fixed up there. And in return, Penrith might be down a winger because they've had a whole heap of injuries there, and Carcassonne's got 6 of them. So, you just move them backwards and forwards between the 2. And you still have your lower grades in Australia that you can do that with. But you can also have this one where you're moving sideways across to a team in France, and it gives them a different experience. Different conditions, different experience, playing a different style of footy, basically, which can also help to make players, more rounded, changes their skill levels, makes them more adaptable to all different conditions. So it just opens all of that up.
I wonder. Sorry, go on.
I was just saying, if the club likes them, then they could probably just give them a full-time contract, and then it's, off their books and off the NRL club's books and onto their books. And then you get to the stage where, we could probably send a bunch of teams over there at the start of the year, the start of our year, which would be their winter over there. So they're not going over there and being absolutely, forced to play in sweltering heat or anything like that, or nor are the French teams brought over here to do that.
Mm-hmm.
We go over there in their winter, and we can have a little knockout tournament.
I wonder if, because like the thing about players moving overseas, it's like you've got to, like, you think about the money that they earn first and foremost, and I'm talking about lower grade players here at this point. So the money's not massive, but when a player makes that move, the reason it's more of a lifestyle move is because so much of the money that they would earn would get eaten up just by living there. You know what I mean? So, but with the NRL minimum wage being $120,000, like that's a decent whack of money, even for the 30th placed player on an NRL roster, right? It makes me wonder, like, if the NRL decided that it was going to set up just a 10-team league in Europe and they were going to start fresh, start from scratch, right? And the only contracts that were available were $120,000, which they could afford that.
Yeah,
crazily, they could easily afford that.
You could help them out even more and have the European team look after their accommodation.
Yeah, you could. Yeah. But I'm just thinking, like, if you started so say the NRL said there's too much going on in England, we can't save that, but we could start a Europe, mainly Europe-based competition where we've got, say, a team in Paris, a team in Berlin. You invite the Catalan Dragons into it. Their costs would be cut with the minimum wage thing. You might even put a team in London and just have a 10-team competition, 20 rounds. Well, it's not 20 rounds because everyone plays everyone twice, but 18 rounds. I wonder if that would work. I wonder if that's the way to do it.
Well,
can you see?
I wouldn't be opposed to it.
Yeah, can you see? Because a lot of the things we talk about and that get proposed, you can see the downside of it, right?
Yeah.
And I wonder where the downside would be in terms of it would even be in our off season for over here. So you would have, it would be like year-round football that the NRL would then be controlling, but then it would be, Paris and Catalan and London, and say Burl, like somebody that is better than me would work out where to be. These teams would be in the best place for them, right? But just say those three places there, I was
going to say, Carsten Brummel would know.
He would, yeah. I was actually thinking that too, right? So, it's easy to point to places on a map and say, well, let's have Rome and Barcelona and these sorts of places. But there might be places that are really, you'd have to have Toulouse in a competition like that too. And the NRL sets it up. The NRL gives minimum wage. So then all of a sudden it's actually really, that's the sort of competition where your wage, 120,000 Australian dollars that you would earn, and it's obviously going to get exchanged into whatever currency the local currency is. But that's a pretty good contract for a professional rugby player, especially when it's guaranteed by the NRL and you join in this brand new competition that's across Europe. It's a pretty quick competition, and it's also got links to the biggest rugby competition in the world in the NRL. That might be the way to go with this.
Yeah, I do think that what you're getting at there is much more viable than trying to fix a mess.
Why
not just start with something clean?
Yeah, exactly. But then you also have, for a competition that's like that, and the costs are much lower than it would be if you were, trying to take over the mess that's Super League. Then you can also bring in, when those other French clubs start getting better, then you bring them into that competition. There's only 10 teams. It'll be easy. That might be the way to go if the NRL is looking to have a footprint in Europe, which I think it should.
Now, I suppose the next question is, do we genuinely believe that the NRL does have an interest in having a footprint over there in Europe?
I think that they are looking to invest in having something elsewhere, and this is just I'm basing this on just a guess. It feels like they want to have something elsewhere that they run and they're invested in on a small scale, and it's not Super League. So that's such a mess and a money pit and a burning money pit at that. You can't get anything out of that.
No, and I think too they know that if they invested even 5% in that, they'd be expected to put in 100% more effort to try and help fix it.
Yeah. And whereas you could get because it's all about your administration. Like there are like teams and teams and teams and teams of people in the Australian Rugby League community at club level and the higher administration levels and stuff. There's so many of those people. I believe you could get together teams of people that would take up the job offer to go and spend 6 months in Europe a year, have everything set up and funded from the NRL's point of view, and see if you can grow something like they're trying to do in Las Vegas with the Las Vegas games. I think that's maybe the way to do it, but who knows? You know, it's. I know that that's a better idea than having to deal with a bunch of people running a failed rugby league competition that's going worse and worse, and having to, make sure they're happy.
Yeah,
and that they don't walk away from what you're trying to do.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on this one. They generally need to they need to steer clear of getting involved in English Rugby League.
Yeah.
It's too much of a mess.
Look, if they set up that competition, the NRL, right, and they showed you can run a competition during the winter time on the continent, on the European continent, and it's a quick 10-team competition, and it proves to be like not too expensive and something that people are interested in, I think it would be very, very quickly that you would see some clubs in England look into becoming part of that competition and leaving what's in England.
You know what I think the NRL would do if they were to get involved over there?
Yeah.
They wouldn't even set up another competition. They just take NRL teams over there to play games over there. Like they'd have some sort of knockout tournament or some shit like that. It might be even just the preseason trial thing, but just as a proper tournament.
Yeah.
They'd just take that over there because it'd be in the English winter.
I think the problem with that would probably, and it's a weird problem, would be the Players Association and the workload on players.
It's possible, but this is the thing. I don't think, given that they'd be trial games, think of back what they had back in the early 1990s. They had the Channel 10 Challenge Cup.
Yeah.
It was a very brief period where we had a Challenge Cup thing going on here. A lot of those squads were made up of fringe first grade players. Mm-hmm. And that's what would happen over there. We'd send over a squad and you'd have a bunch of first grade players that would go over. But if they had to play 4 games, those first grade players, the regulars would probably play 1 game.
Yeah, yeah.
And so they'd take a lot of the workload off that way. And they'd be giving a lot of genuine game time, as they currently do with the trials, to young talent coming through. I wouldn't be surprised if they did something like that. That might just be the quicker and easy way of doing things and just getting the game over there. That might just be enough for them. Just go, yeah, we'll just do this.
Well, okay, how about this, right? And this is the step that we need to consider as a sport, considering where international rugby league is right now, which is, I think we've got more competitive teams, but in some weird way, it's probably lower than it's been for at least 20 years, right? Mm-hmm. would we get more? We've got these internationals coming up at the end of the year from Southern Hemisphere point of view, the Pacific Cup, and there's going to be some internationals over in England. There's 2 at the moment. Samoa's going over to England for 2 test matches. Would we get more out of that program of games than we would if NRL clubs went over to Europe and played, say, a knockout tournament in Europe, in mainland Europe, and that's it? Like, I think we would get way more out of a knockout tournament.
Oh, absolutely.
So, okay, so if you say absolutely, right, and I tend to think that we probably would too, on many different levels. So maybe it's time for Rugby League to think about doing that. Instead of persisting with these failed international games, that even the Pacific Cup final last year, remember how terrible that crowd was?
Well, look, this is the problem with the international stuff, okay, in their quotation marks calendar, is there's no 100% logical, understandable system and strategy in place for everything. And if there is, it's not clear, right? So every senior international match should have some sort of meaning or should be moving towards something. So, like, classic example, okay, is look at the FIFA World Cup, right? Whenever internationals are being played there that are officially recognised in important games, it's contributing to whether you qualify for the World Cup or not. And the problem we have in Rugby League is 8 teams automatically qualify every time, but there's not 50 teams like in the FIFA World Cup that are qualifying for the World Cup.
Honestly, yes.
It's 14 teams or 12 teams or 16 teams or whatever it is. So half of the teams are automatically added in. And you've got 50-odd nations that are all available to compete in the World Cup in Rugby League. Yet they're fighting over somewhere between 4 and 8 places in the World Cup.
And it takes all of the tension away from their games because it's not... Like, can you imagine if... Like I can see you would say the champion... You want to see the champion defend their title so they get automatic qualification, right? Whoever the champion is.
Yes.
But can you imagine if New Zealand had to perform well to make sure they're in the World Cup? You know, or even Tonga, or Samoa, or Fiji, or England, or France. And you are so right. We get rid of all of that, and most of the teams just get a free ride into it, and it's like, why?
Yeah. And it kills it because, you get someone like we've seen this last 12 months. Netherlands have won, all but one of their games. They've probably played more international games than anybody else. They're not going to get into the World Cup.
No.
You know, how's that fair? Well,
but then you look at Australia's point of view from we lost that game against New Zealand, right, in the final of the Pacific Championship. It meant nothing.
No, that's the problem.
And on the same token, New Zealand wins that title, and it's great. It's a great thing to celebrate. I'm not taking anything away from New Zealand, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not like that secured their place in the World Cup, which would have been so cool if that was what was on the line. Like if it was like you have to win this to make the World Cup, like it would have been amazing.
Yes.
But there was none of that tension there.
No, and that's the other thing too. That Pacific Cup was such a stop-start, just absolute mishmash of a thing that you couldn't get into it because you'd had 2 games played here, then a few months passed, and a few more games are played, and a few months passed, and a few more games are played, and then it's the next year, and then a few more games are played, and then a few months passed, and you can't get invested in that. That's nonsense.
And it was also the way that it was set up was like, you know, they had like shields and plates and stuff, and it's like everyone gets a trophy. I don't know. That's not how we do sport in this part of the world, first of all. But if that had just been a straight knockout competition, man, it would have been so much more interesting. And instead it was like, I don't know what's going on. Oh, Australia and New Zealand are in the final. No one's there. New Zealand won it. Cool. Like, it just didn't mean much. And I'm not taking away from New Zealand put the biggest score that anyone's ever put on Australia for a nil scoreline. And I'm not taking one thing away from that performance. It was fantastic. They played well. They deserved it completely. I just wish that it meant more. And it didn't. It was winning one trophy, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And you're right. It should have,
contributed. Look, we have to start making the World Cup the most vital, important thing, and everything leads to it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's just the way things are. That's how it should be. And it's not. And as I said, like when you get half the teams, or at this stage, it's 75% of the teams are just walking in. You're making it almost basically impossible for 40 odd nations to get in there. It's a soul crushing thing for those other nations.
The other thing is too, no matter how badly you perform at the World Cup when you're there, you could be terrible. You're going to be there next time. That's it. You're going to be there. That's fine. Just keep turning up, playing like crap, not achieving anything, sometimes looking even worse, sometimes looking like you don't even want to be there. Doesn't matter. You'll get another turn because, everyone qualifies. Yeah. It's silly. There's zero tension in it. But that's the thing. Like, do we persist with doing this with International Rugby League and trying to do something year after year? Or do we say, let's look at our strength, which is without question the club game, and try and grow rugby league with that overseas? Look, I'm like you. I know, because I know what you're thinking. In an ideal world, we do it with international footy, because then you're given a relevant local product. Somebody in France is cheering for France. Somebody in England's cheering for England. Someone in Ireland's cheering for Ireland. That's the ideal world. We just don't have that.
No, that's the thing. You want to get an entire nation supporting one team instead of one town supporting one team.
Yeah.
That's what you want with international stuff.
Yeah, like in an ideal world, we would have it like that, and it wouldn't be Toulouse's supporting the Parramatta Eels these 2 weekends in November.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we've got to the point now where the international scene has become, I'm going to be very kind and say stagnant.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so if taking NRL games or having a mini NRL knockout comp throughout Europe in our off season or pre-season, right, it's not going to annoy fans in Australia that much because I'll be able to watch it on TV. And they will just be considered as trials. But if we can make it mean something, so have some decent prize money or some decent trophy on the line, something of use or value, some benefit out of the thing, right? Then it would probably serve to promote the game better. Because the TV deals are already in place, and it's with a company that does have bases in, some of the biggest nations in the world, and that is with, Fox.
Mm-hmm.
So that would help because at the moment the International Rugby League I don't believe it's got a TV rights deal with anyone. It's basically up to the hands of the governing body in the country to whether they want to broadcast it or not. I think we found that out with the England-France test recently.
Yeah. And by the way, the International Rugby League, the only governing body that doesn't govern anything.
So I think that would help because immediately that broadcast rights also for the NRL becomes more valuable because they're not just advertising to an Australian audience. They've now got a global audience and they're sending it out everywhere. And so that's something that could lead to bigger TV rights deals for the NRL. And so that's got a snowballing effect because bigger TV right deals means they're going to have to broadcast it to more countries and blah, blah, blah. It helps. That's the biggest and easiest and quickest way to help promote the game everywhere. And you'll get that with the NRL quicker than anything else because the NRL's just got the TV rights deal. They're ready to go. They can do that straight away.
And like you and me absolutely love international footy. We love it. If we could both click our fingers, it would be exactly what everyone is dreaming that it could one day be, right? But it just isn't that right now. But I would say this. Do you think that there would be more interest in the Pacific Championship at the end of the year or I'll take our teams out of it, the Manly Sea Eagles taking on the Catalan Dragons in November? And, like, how would that turn out? Like, I'd be like, ooh, I want to see that game.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I'd like to see both of those, but the Pacific one has to be much better organised. It's got to be organised like a World Cup, right? So it's at the end of the year and all the games are played then and we've got the winner at the end. Not over 2 years in months apart with games. You can't get invested in that, right? There's a reason why every year during State of Origin, everyone gets the shits and whinges because State of Origin kills the Premiership. It's because the Premiership gets all stop-start and doesn't have any flow to it anymore. Mm-hmm. So we know this. So why did we think that doing the same thing with Pacific Cup would work?
With like much, much less interest compared to State of Origin games, which sell out stadiums and get huge TV ratings. Yeah,
it's crazy. Setting up to fail from the absolute get-go.
Yep. What if you go, I know this goes against everything we've said for the last, I don't know how long we've been talking, an hour and a bit. You go to the Rugby Football League and you say, look, the Challenge Cup isn't working. It's just not working. And it puts pressure on your club season. What if we move the Challenge Cup to end of October, November? We turn it into this crazy knockout competition where we play Super League clubs and Australian clubs, and they're all in this just giant knockout competition. We make it as quick as possible. The Australian clubs are all based in places where there should be clubs, but you don't have them, as well as in Europe. And we do something like that. And what if we did that just once every 3 years in the 4-year World Cup cycle?
Well, we've touched on this before, and I think the best way to do it is have it so that games that are part of the actual NRL season.
Yeah.
Right? So pick 2 or 3 rounds at random. Actually, no, fuck it. Just pick one round at random, okay? And that will be our Challenge Cup round. It's still the Premiership round, so it still counts to points on the ladder. Mm-hmm. But it's also knockout games. So,
like the NBA in-season cup, they did this year.
Yeah, so for teams like the West Tigers, right, who are at the bottom of the ladder, fuck it, let's just go out all on this one game in this round. If we win this, we're into the next round of the Challenge Cup. Doesn't matter if we get 2 points and we're still sitting at the bottom of the ladder. We've advanced to the next round of the Challenge Cup. We're still going towards something. So you've got a reason, even for the lower teams, to keep trying to put in for those other games. Mm-hmm. So you're trying to make even the weaker teams put in to do that little bit better. And you'll find that the teams at the absolute top of the ladder might be inclined to take it a little bit easy there because they go, we're going to be playing 3 or 4 extra games in the finals anyway. We're not sure we want to play an extra game in the Challenge Cup as well. Mm-hmm. So it just that whole dynamic mixes it up, right? But if you just do that, they're not playing an extra game. They're playing the same games as always. And then, boom, that's round 1 sorted. Mm-hmm. Right? Round 2 can just be any other round where the teams that won in round 1 are playing against each other. And, could be over 2 or 3 rounds, but just have it so it's set up in that way. And bam, whatever round 2 is in the Challenge Cup, if it's over 3 rounds, so be it. Those games are done there. Same system. And then you want to get to the end where you've got, whittle it down till you've got, say, 4 NRL teams left over.
Yeah.
And you've got 4 Super League teams, or 4 English teams left, right?
Mm-hmm.
and then send those 4 teams that are left over in the NRL, send them over to England, and then do that bit you're talking about, where they go to regional areas that don't get much rugby league, and the NRL teams will go over there, and they, at that stage, when you're down to the final 8, 4 from each hemisphere, that's when they stop playing against teams in their own hemisphere. They mix up and they play against a Southern Hemisphere plays a Northern Hemisphere team.
Yeah.
And they do that, and then you go through to the final at Wembley.
And when do you play that part of it, though?
I'd do that probably after the respective grand finals.
Okay. I think the way to do that, you got to do that at the start. So the first round.
I mean, I'm happy for it to be at the start of the year as well. I wouldn't mind.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be opposed to that.
What I mean is, like, the first rounds you described, I think that they've got to be, because you could set it up where you do the first, you could do your draw so that you've got your first round of games, and obviously only half of those teams go through to the second round. But then the second round of the NRL draw, you could set it up so that you could predict, like, you could just cross the opponents over and predict, like, this, one of these 2 teams is going through, one of these 2 teams is going through. You don't know who it's going to be, but you could sort it out through the first few rounds of your draw, and because you'd have so much control over them first couple of rounds. And then you've got your qualifiers for the rest of that Challenge Cup that waits until, say, October, November to then go on. From our perspective, NRL teams going over to England and playing the rest of that Challenge Cup. It'd be interesting. Yep. Look, it'd be more interesting than what the internationals have been for the last number of years. That's for certain.
Yeah.
Which sucks to say. It really sucks.
It does. You know, they could. I've been finding it hard to get back into the International Rugby League. They could get my interest right back if they started televising more of those European games where, like, Germany's playing Netherlands and Serbia's playing against Spain or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If they start televising those, I am immediately watching that.
What I don't understand, Andrew, is if I'm the International Rugby League and I know that I've got such a huge variance between Australia and New Zealand playing, or like Greece and Serbia playing one another. Like, that's such a huge difference, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why the International Rugby League doesn't have a stock standard, really basic budget production where it's got groups of people and not even massive groups of people. I'm talking like a handful of people. They go to games, they set up the 4K camera in the right place. They do a little bit of audio stuff so that you get the on-field audio and stuff. And it's very basic, but at least that game is able to be viewed. And then you just stream it on YouTube. You and me could set that up so easily. And we're not like audio-visual people, you know? So why doesn't the International Rugby League have this thing where that they say, yeah, we've got this international that's on the weekend. We send our camera people out and they do that. Like, it's not like a giant camera that's on someone's shoulder anymore. Like, you just got to set up a tripod and have someone that'll follow the play. Like,
I've been saying it for ages. Like, there's no reason why they can't do this and live stream it on their own website. And then A, they've got people going to their website, and B, you've got the match recorded, like properly recorded, not a newspaper written article or an article on a website. You've got the entire visual of the game, which you're going to need for, if you've got instances that might have to go to a judiciary, you're going to need that. And yeah, you can use it for promoting the game to whatever levels you want anywhere. You can use it in adverts, anything.
Just YouTube ads.
Yeah, you've got it. And that's the thing. Content on YouTube is always king. You can put a live stream it on YouTube via your website.
Imagine if every rugby league international outside of like the top, I don't know, say 6 nations or 8 nations, put your cutoff wherever you want. But imagine if every international was available to view not only live when it happened, but to stream afterwards on their channel.
Yeah.
Like, it's so simple.
It's
just
easy.
and just let the YouTube ads give you any money back. And surely having the screen, like the points of the game and the lineups and the time on the screen, surely you can do that through a fucking laptop. Like, you don't need a massive production.
No, it can't be hard. It can't be hard
to not do this shit right now. It's crazy.
Yes.
It's so fucking crazy. It's annoying.
Right. Well, what else has been going on? Oh, I know what's been going on. A quick bit of news. Brad Arthur's going to be coaching Leeds Rhinos for the rest of the year. He just likes blue and gold, it seems.
Yeah, he won't need to change his wardrobe, will he?
Nah, he's good.
I hope he enjoys it over there, and I hope that it all works out well for him over there. Another thing that's happening is obviously this week the NRL announced their Las Vegas venture for next year for 2025, and they've expanded it quite a bit, which is interesting. So it's going to take place on, I believe it's the 1st of March next year. It's going to kick off at 1 p.m. local time with Wigan taking on Warrington. Interesting. And then at 4 p.m. local time in Las Vegas, we will see the Canberra Raiders take on the New Zealand Warriors. Then at 6 p.m. local Las Vegas time, we will see the Australian Women's Rugby League team take on the England Women's Rugby League team.
Hey, that'll be a good match.
I have a feeling the Australian team is going to whip the hell out of them, hey?
They may do, but I'd expect the English women team to be much more competitive against Australia than the men's team.
Oh, yeah, 100%. 100%. And then at 8:30 p.m. local Las Vegas time, the Penrith Panthers will take on the Cronulla Sharks. Interesting that I think they were always going to expand it a little bit, and I think they were always going to bring the women's game over there for this. But it is interesting that they've invited 2 Super League teams. My guess is that they want to kind of tap into some away support that Super League clubs are fantastic with.
Well, apparently there were some rumours suggesting that quite a lot of people who went to the Las Vegas games last year were people who travelled from England.
Oh, really?
So I thought, well, let's try and give them a more local reason to come by sending 2 of the English teams over. I think that was kind of the idea behind it. I don't know how much merit this is. It's just a comment that I saw somewhere. I can't remember if it was an actual fact or an opinion, but it was. It wouldn't surprise me if that was true.
Yeah, and obviously they get the bonus of the women's team they get to watch, which is cool. I don't mind it at all, actually. I think it'll be really interesting. But overall, I think it's a pretty damn good lineup that they've announced, and they've announced it so far ahead of time that if people want to save up and go, they can sort that all out with plenty of time left. So that was really cool seeing that announcement and seeing that they had expanded it. So I was really happy to see all of that.
I hope that they just don't do the whole come watch real football thing again.
No, they need to be it needs to be.
They need to be trying to compare it to the American football, not trying to alienate it.
Yes.
Like they're your key audience over there.
Yes.
Don't tell your key audience over there that what they watch is dog shit, right?
Yeah.
Tell them, come watch what our version of what you're doing. Don't say that it's better. Don't say that theirs is worse. None of that. Just go, here's your football. Come watch ours. And maybe what they should try and do for the next one after this one is have a legit, important NFL game on, if possible, on the same weekend at the same venue. And then you're getting those NFL fans into the ground instead of just relying on rugby league fans and general interest. You're getting a bunch of these NFL fans coming in as well, and they're there.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm surprised they haven't done like that. To me, that just seemed like the no-brainer. They're your audience.
But the NFL season's over by March 1st.
I know, but we're not locked into having to use that date. We can move that around, surely.
I think the NFL season finishes in, is it January or February? It was I only remember it was the start of
Yeah.
the school year because I used to take the first day off for school
I think
to
it's
watch the
February.
Super Bowl.
Very
So
early, first week of February or second week of February, somewhere around there. But yeah, there's no reason why we can't go around there and try and make it so that we're playing that game, because it is their winter as well. There's no reason why we can't be taking games over there at a time which works with their schedules to some degree.
Yeah.
I know it's a bit earlier than usual for us, but maybe it doesn't have to be an NRL game. Maybe it can be an international match or something like that.
Mm.
But what we've got to do is find a way to make it work with the NFL audience and make them come to the game. Give them a reason to be there because their team's there. And there's this other weird thing from that other country that's being on here. Let's go just have a look and see what that's all about.
I think that the NFL, I think say you had a game that was on, say you put an exhibition game on, let's say New South Wales versus Queensland, because they've done that before. Say you put New South Wales and Queensland on in January over in the US and you put it on the same weekend as an NFL game. I think the NFL game would swamp it so completely. It's such a juggernaut. I don't think you'd break through at all.
No, it would. But the thing is, you've got the game there with those fans there. Like at the moment, what we're trying to do is get Rugby League fans to go to another country to watch the game.
Yeah.
It feels like we're still trying to pick the same pockets. And what I'm getting at is we should be trying to pick other pockets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and the best way to do that is to get them to go along and watch the game that they usually do. You know, charge an extra, say, 25% for the ticket for the NFL, right? But you get a 2-for-1, so you get the NFL game plus the Rugby League game. Not all the Rugby League games, just one of them.
But why would the NFL do that?
It's not about whether the NFL would want to do it. They got the game there already. It's about us piggybacking off them. We're not taking anything away from the NFL.
I just think I think the NFL just wouldn't entertain anything like that. Like, I know what you're saying. Like, we just go there when the NFL goes there. But, the only thing that I know works at the same time as an NFL game is for the Super Bowl. And I mean in terms of an outside thing trying to piggyback off the back of an NFL crowd, right? The only thing I know that works is when, and I'm going to be honest about it because I've heard it many times before, when all of the prostitution that goes around the Super Bowl weekend.
Yeah.
Apparently the prostitutes over there make out like bandits on Super Bowl weekend, and it's a well-known thing. It's a big traveling thing.
Well,
good luck to them too.
Well, yeah, fair enough. Oldest profession in the world and all. No, but I mean, I think the argument of what would the NFL get out of it? I think that's an argument that's really strong when it comes to a competitor in the same country.
Mm-hmm.
So if I was just the same thing, like having Melbourne still make a deal with, say, Collingwood,
but
then the AFL is going to go, why would we help promote a genuine rival to ours in the same country? But when it comes to a rival who is much smaller compared to the NFL, especially in the USA, the NFL is not going to be threatened by that. And if the NRL goes over and says, look, we can help set up some, combines, something like that. So, you might be able to get yourself some potential other players from Australia out of this affiliation. You may get 2 in 10 years, but still, if it helps, if the NFL sees that as, that might be something worthwhile, then they might be willing to help out there. I'm not suggesting put it on the same weekend as the Super Bowl because that would be, that'd be a bit too aggressive. And the NFL would just say, fuck no.
Yeah, they just shut down all the fields.
Yeah. I'm just talking about a regular season game.
Yeah.
Or even if it's a fucking, one of the preseason games, even that would be fine.
But what about, it'd be like a field hockey team from the Netherlands wanting to do a deal with the Melbourne Storm.
Yes.
The Melbourne Storm would be like, no thanks, we're good. There's just no need for them to do it at all for any reason.
The Melbourne Storm would say, what do we have to pay? And the field hockey team would say, nothing.
But then they've got to deal with this other organisation over ticketing. They just don't need to deal with that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I don't think they'd be too concerned.
What we need to do, Andrew, is just merge all the sports into one. We just need to get them all like a big ball of clay.
Hey, now we're talking.
Squish them all together.
Except
right?
for AFL.
All of a sudden, like every game, like, you know, you get a dude that comes out onto like a big, like, it's a concrete oval, and he's riding on top of a horse that's on top of a monster truck, right?
With the cricket pitch in the middle?
Yeah, he gets his tennis bat.
Tennis croquet bat?
Yeah. Well, I was going to say racket, but it's more like a bat because the first part's like a big hockey stick, but at the end it's a tennis thing, right?
Yep.
He puts on his boxing gloves.
He's belting a bowling ball around.
Yeah. Telling you. That's got to be better than watching an international rugby league game, let me tell you.
I'll just say, on that, over the years, I've come across time and time again during my history research, the 2 or 3 occasions where rugby league has gone to AFL and said, "How's about we form a hybrid game?"
Mm-hmm.
And every time they start going, yeah, this sounds like a good idea. Let's do that. And they're all very keen on it until they sit down and go, right, how's this going to look? And nearly every time the AFL people say to the rugby league people, okay, the offside rule. And rugby league goes, yeah, that's staying. And AFL goes, I think that's a problem.
Yeah.
And they go, right, how do we make rules around this? And every time they look at it and they build the rest of the game around it, it kind of sounds like what we just described then.
Yeah. Now, about the knock-on thing.
Yeah, that's a bad one.
It's like, I remember when there was like 20 minutes where they were trying to do this thing where you merge rugby union, and they did it for some schoolboys game in North Sydney, where it was like once you passed a certain point of the field, you stopped doing play the balls and started doing rucks and mauls. I believe it was along those lines.
Yeah.
Which just sounds like the most ridiculous fucking shit in the world.
It sounded like you had limited tackles to get out of your own half, but when you got into the opposition's half, you had unlimited tackles, basically.
Yeah.
Right,
so
we want the scores to be 95 to 80.
It's so stupid.
Like, haven't we got AFL for that reason?
Yeah, and there was literally people like saying, "No, this would be a really good idea." That was around the same time where the Johns brothers were pushing for 12 players aside. Do you remember that?
I do.
Fucking hell.
Oh.
No wonder they hate each other.
So it's been good. We haven't heard too much from those two clowns. I don't know if they've gone quiet or whether we've just stopped reading their garbage.
There was something one of them said about, I think it was 6 to 8 weeks ago. I wish I could remember what it was, because every time I see something I post, like the Johns rule has been invoked, because I can't help myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, so some of their ideas are crazy.
Utter dross. I think that's the best way to describe that.
So anyway, we're going to start a brand new competition in Europe with NRL clubs, and it's going to be a knockout comp that takes over the Challenge Cup. That's fine. That sounds like a good idea.
Piece of cake, and it's basically already done.
Yeah.
What else have we got going on?
That's about it. There's not been too many huge stories. I actually was told during the week from, I want to say the name of the podcast. Where was it? It was the Red Robin podcast, the Rob Pod. Hull Kingston Rovers independent podcast hosted by Jono. I don't know. Yeah, he'll be fine.
I've been on Jono's podcast. He's a good bloke. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Because he got in touch with me during the week, And he's told me this before it was anywhere. And he was saying about how Taylor May was over in the UK training with the lower grades side of Hull KR. And we were direct messaging back and forth about it. And I wasn't going to say anything until it all come out in the media and there was a lot of people talking about it, that he was over there. But I thought it was interesting that Talon May went straight over after being, well, he's already over there when he was released by the Panthers. I just found it very interesting. I wonder if he'll end up playing for a Super League club for the rest of the year because he's off contract now. Hasn't got a contract at all.
I've got to be reminded, did he get found guilty of anything?
He hasn't been found. No, his court case is coming up next year, right?
Right.
The Panthers and him, the Panthers had a couple of breach notices against him, and they wanted to sack him.
Yeah.
What ended up happening is that both parties come to a confidential agreement, and he would be released from the remainder of any contract that he had with the Panthers. There was probably a financial element to that, which is undisclosed, and if eventually it will have to be disclosed because the NRL will have to count that against the Panthers cap.
So that's just fancy talk for the Panthers did sack him. Just be honest, that's what it is.
It's like no, he wasn't sacked. He's just not playing for them anymore.
Yeah. No, he's not sacked. He got asked to quit.
Yeah.
And we begrudgingly accepted.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Because, I mean, that's the thing. If he gets found guilty,
yes,
then that may impact his ability to get a contract in England, I'd imagine, with the whole visa issues and stuff like that.
You would think so, but like between now and then, I mean, obviously he's able to travel over there, right?
Yeah, between now and then it'll be fine. But it's just it's going to hamper his ability to secure an actual contract of any significance or any value for any length of time until that case has been heard.
Yeah, it would have to be
guilty. Yeah, and if he's found guilty, he's going to have to return to Australia and serve whatever punishment there is there, and however long he's got to be here before he can travel overseas again.
You would think so, yeah. But it was just interesting the way that played out. Thank you for the information from the Robbins pod. Everyone go and have a listen to them. I think that's about it in terms. They named the Origin teams. There wasn't any massive changes. The only thing that come out of a lot of it was that for whatever reason, whenever Michael Maguire says people in glass houses, it really triggers the Queensland management. And I don't know why, but they just get really upset about it for some reason. I found that funny. And Gordon Tallis getting really fucking angry about it. But that's really about it. It's been pretty quiet and it's been all footy. The footy on the weekend was really good. Yeah.
Well, should we preview the 5 games this weekend with some stats?
Let's do it. Let's do that with some stats. Keeping in mind there's no Origin players available, which kind of sucks. So it's going to make the round a little bit meh.
It will. All right. So first up, we've got the Dolphins versus the Bunnies. South have won their last 5 NRL games by a combined score of 156-66.
It's a huge turnaround, eh?
It is. And 14 of the Dolphins' 17 NRL victories have been achieved in Queensland, which is where this game will be played.
I have to go with the Dolphins in this one. The Rabbitohs are without Latrell Mitchell. I know they've been going better, but I like to rely on the Dolphins in terms of they're just a pretty consistent team. They don't have too many really bad games, and Souths have bad games in them, and so I'm just going for the Dolphins in this.
I'm going to go with the Bunnies because the Dolphins' defense is still mid.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like it's not too much of a task for a team to score 20 points against them.
Yeah.
And South's defense over the last 5 games have only been conceding 12 points a game, thereabouts, which is pretty solid. And they've been scoring 30 points a game. And I know that's going to change without Latrell there. But, I think South might scrape home in that one. I think it will be a bit closer, though.
By the way, can I just say, I would kill for a triple Bondo burger with barbecue sauce on it right now, and it's way too late. It's closed. But I would kill for one of them right now.
Yeah, they do go good, don't they?
Oh, they're so good.
Next game, Sharks versus Tigers. The Tigers have had 13 players sin bin this year. Only 5 teams have had more. And I'm talking about the 10-minute sin bins here, okay?
Yep.
Balmain in 1991 had 17 people get a 10-minute sin bin.
Wow.
That's the record. The Tigers' last win at PointsBet Stadium was in 2014. They've lost all 4 games there since. Now, earlier this year, though, the Tigers did beat the Sharks, full-strength Sharks. Was it 32-6 or something? Flogged them.
Mm.
So I'm going with the Tigers to win this one by about 40.
I am going for the Sharks in this one.
That seems reasonable.
Nico Hines out for 8 weeks at minimum with a I'm trying to remember what it was. I think it was a syndesmosis rupture, as well as they found a fracture in his leg.
Damn.
Yeah, so he will, if best case scenario, he will be available for either the last round of the NRL season or week 1, which I believe is against maybe the Manly Seagulls, or week 1 of the NRL finals. And that is horrible preparation. And to me, it's almost at a point where you say, shut him down for the year and we move forward with Trindle. And who was the young 5'8" dude that they played on the wing?
Atkinson?
Yeah, I think it was him, yeah. Because he looked all right, and Trindle is a really solid backup as a halfback. And I think that they can keep going and steady the ship if they just commit to those 2 dudes and say, you're our halves going forward, and we'll be our halves in the finals. And I think that they perform better with that responsibility, both of them, rather than saying, well, we're going to play you 2, and then if Nico's ready for the finals, we'll drag him in.
It'll work really well if Blake Brayley's attacking game is made to open up a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not had to do as much of the creative stuff when Hines is on the field. But now we're going to get a long stint without him there. You'll see him play, and he's able to do it, more of that Coruscant type of role in attack, where he can drop out to first receiver every now and then and put a little play on here and there. So if he can do a little bit more of that, it could help change the shape of the Sharks' attack close to the line. Mm-hmm. And because he's a hooker, he's going to be popping up on both sides of the ruck to do that, which is it could add an extra angle to their attack, I guess, close to the line. He does have very good passing game with his middle forwards as well. So he's got some good size outside forwards.
Mm-hmm.
Like Tig Wilton, Nakora. So get them 1-on-1, which he is able to do. It'll take a bit of pressure off the halves, and it could just lead to simple ways to score points close to the line, which is kind of what the Sharks need to get back to doing. I think these last 5-6 weeks they've been trying to do too much fancy stuff, scoring tries to wingers and scoring on the edges and stuff like that, which is it's just not worked for them. They've gone away from what had been working, which is good line running, angled running towards backing towards the post. They've gone away from that for some reason.
Yeah. So
this might help fix that up a little bit.
Yeah. I think that they can do pretty well without Hines, actually. I don't.
Oh, yeah.
I like he's a very good player, but I think that they can be 90 to 95% of what they could potentially be without him as well. So
I mean, they need to run up a cricket score on this Tiger side. Like if they're serious and they're going to clean up their performance, they need to put a big score on because, while they might have the same number of competition points as the teams above them, their points difference is much, much worse.
Yeah, that Panthers smashing really crushed them for and against. Yeah.
Titans versus Eels. Oh, Jesus. Eels have won 8 of their last 9 games against the Titans, scoring an average of 30 points per game in that period. However, Parramatta have had just 10 wins from 25 trips to the Gold Coast since 1988.
Wow. Holy shit. That's crazy. I'm going for the Titans in this one.
So am I.
Moses is out. He's really the only thing that looks good on the Eels at the moment. And the Titans are playing some pretty decent footy. And this feels like a game they really should win. So they'll probably go up by 20 points, let the Eels score 30, then score 15 themselves. And I mean 15. They'll kick a field goal and then lose by, what would it be, 48 points to 35.
Yeah, that's pretty legit.
Yeah.
I'd go with that. Broncos v Dragons. Brisbane have won 12 of the last 15 games against the Dragons at Suncorp Stadium, which goes back to 2009. And the Dragons have won just 3 of their last 28 NRL games outside of Sydney and Wollongong.
This is a horrible game for the Broncos. They have to win.
They do need to win.
They have to win. They are playing against a team who is ahead of them on the ladder and is fighting for these points right now. So it's like this is a head-to-head, could sort out who goes into the finals and who doesn't. And yet the Broncos are missing so many players because of Origin. And look, the Dragons are missing their 2 key players as well. I'm gonna go with the Broncos are missing Madden even because he's injured. So I think I'm gonna stick with the Broncos.
Yeah, I'm going Broncos.
Yeah,
Broncos by 10.
Yeah, I'm going Broncos.
Last game, Manly versus Newcastle. The Knights
do you remember when Chief and Spud used to knock 10 shades of shit out of one another? Those were the days.
Newcastle have had 4 wins from their 22 games at Brookvale Oval since 1988.
Fuck.
Here's another one. I did a bit of research on this one.
Mm-hmm.
Manly have won 74% of their games since 1947 when playing at Brookvale Oval and sitting in the top 7 on the ladder.
Wow, that's specific.
That is 353 wins, 8 draws, 114 losses.
That's very impressive.
It's pretty damn good. And that's their entire history.
Yeah. That's means that's like when they're decent, they will win these games. Yeah. That's pretty good. I'm going for considering the Knights' fucking record, you have to go for the Seagulls.
Yeah, I'm going Manly by 40.
Wow, even without DCE?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, fuck it.
Put all your crypto coin on this one, people.
Oh, shit. Come on, we don't gamble. We don't gamble with crypto, Andrew. What are you talking about?
Well, yeah, I'm not going to sit here and tell people to gamble with actual money. Gamble with crypto. It's not real.
Listen, the crypto is way too valuable to gamble with. Oh, wait. No, it's not anymore. Sorry.
Yeah, so people do it all the time anyway.
By the way, I don't have any crypto. I've talked about that in the podcast now. I sold it all.
Sold it all, yes. And you're not dreaming of buying anymore.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I had a dream. Okay, I DM'd this to Andrew and Nadine. I had a dream a few nights ago, a week ago or something, that Bitcoin went down to like $2,000 per Bitcoin, and I was going to buy $1,000 worth of it. And I was talking to Andrew about it, and he was, to his credit, in my dream, he was the same non-committal, like one that he has been through my entire crypto journey. He's never shut on me about it. He's called it Ponzi coin, but he's never been like League Freak. Listen to me now. You're a fucking idiot, mate. You're a fucking dickhead. He's never done any of that. He's been like, if that's what you want to do.
Yeah. That's your hill, buddy. That's your hill.
Yeah.
I will say, it's trying to help you out because it's come down by $491 today.
What's it down to now?
$85,617.
Yeah, see, it's still too high. It's just got to come down a little bit.
Another 83,000.
Yeah, and then
you'll
I'll
be in.
Back in. Then I'll get back into it.
That seems fair.
Yeah, I sold it all because I remember how much I told you I had in it. Like, it was crazy amount. I ended up selling it because I wanted to buy some things, and then I had to fix up my car for Rego.
Yes. Well, it's coming down to 2021 levels.
Yeah.
And dropping harder towards the 2020 levels.
Yeah. When they with the next planned pandemic that they're getting ready to ramp up, it'll drop right down and then I'll buy in again.
That's the way.
Yeah.
And then hodl.
Hodl. Oh, that's funny. It's also sad because I know what you mean.
Yes. Now we're going to get to the important part of the podcast where we talk about the Formula One.
Very good race, wasn't it?
It was very good. It's been interesting to hear too. A lot of talk because we're now officially in the silly season with all the contracts that are coming up, and there's not many teams that have got their driving lineup locked in place for next year.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's McLaren and Aston Martin.
I think Ferrari do as well, don't they?
Oh, yeah, they do. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
right. They do. Yeah, man. Ferrari, man, there's going to be some sooking in that team next year.
Oh, man, can you imagine?
It's a sad, sad team next year.
Oh, their tyres are already going bad.
They're just going to have inters on the whole time just to do with all the tears coming out of the cockpit.
They'll have the only drivers that'll be like, my tyres, they're falling apart, man, as they're hitting fastest laps.
Yes, and overtaking cars. And
yeah.
So a bit of talk coming out of this race was, even though Sergio Perez was given a contract extension for another 2 years a few weeks ago, apparently there's a get-out-of-jail clause in that for Red Bull. And that was, if he doesn't meet certain criteria, certain points in the season, and one of them is to be within 100 points of Max Verstappen at the summer break, which is where they are now, and he's currently 130-odd points behind him.
That's crazy.
I think there was another one somewhere else as well, along the similar lines. Then Red Bull had the right to cancel the contract. And there's talk that this might actually happen over this summer break coming up. And the word is that Ricciardo would be put into that vacant seat at Red Bull.
I don't think he could do any worse, hey?
I think it's got to the point now where, he won't do any worse. The one thing you'll find with Ricciardo is he's not a bloke who crashes a lot. So Perez has been doing an awful lot of that over the last 2 seasons, which gets a bit pricey after a while. And also means that when you're crashing a car, you're not finishing races and therefore you're not getting points. And because the season has now got very close, we're going to be, by the season's end, we're going to be close to a 4-team challenge for the Constructors' Championship.
Yeah.
Red Bull can't afford to have one of its drivers not scoring points.
And he keeps, every so often he'll miss like the first phase of qualifying and you're like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah.
And he's in like probably the fastest car out there, arguably.
The race last week, I'm pretty sure, I'll have to check the data, but I'm pretty sure that he got lapped by Ricciardo at the very end. And Ricciardo finished 13th.
Yeah, like he was lapped super early on by his own teammate. It's crazy. And look, they went to a funny tyre situation, but like, dude, you're in the fastest car out there. You shouldn't be getting lapped.
Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised because there was talk a few weeks back, might have been 2 or 3 weeks ago, from Helmut Marko, that he wanted the Visa RB Cash App team to be the team with 2 young drivers in it, like it always used to be.
Mm.
And obviously Ricardo isn't a young driver. So everyone thought, oh, Ricardo's not going to get a contract next year. And then just as people were starting to go, oh, what's going to happen with Ricardo? This story's come out about Perez possibly getting his contract torn up. Marco is a fan of Ricardo. That's not a secret. As is Horner. As is Max Verstappen. And the good thing, I guess, for Red Bull in their mind is by bringing Ricardo in, he's not going to try and challenge for the championship because he literally can't because he's too far away.
Yeah.
Like, he's no chance. He won't be crashing the car all the time. He will be a lot more consistent. He will be getting points because, I mean, he's been getting points in a much weaker car. And Perez hasn't been. So in a better car, he's going to be getting more points, which is going to be better for the constructors. And I don't think they would do it thinking that this is going to be their long-term solution. I think Red Bull right now are thinking we need to get to the end of the year. And so they're thinking Ricciardo to the end of the year, and then we'll figure out what we're going to do after that. But it also means that they've opened up an opportunity for Liam Lawson to come into that vacant seat in the Visa Cash App car, which they want to do. They've been trying to get him in there somewhere. And then they will be trying to figure out what the hell they do for next year.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they just went with Ricardo or if they went with someone else. Like, I can't, there's a few drivers out there that'll be available, but I think because it's such a situation where they weren't expecting it to happen, where Perez falls off so hard so quickly, like, it's not something that I think anyone was expecting that there could be a Red Bull seat there. So all of the main drivers are kind of signed, like the best drivers are all pretty much signed up, really.
Yeah, well, the only one that isn't is Carlos Sainz.
Yeah, he'd be all right, but then, like, how's that going to work with Red Bull? And because I know Verstappen, and there's been some stuff going on with the team principal at Red Bull, I don't even know what you call it. Like, you can't call it off-field stuff, off-track stuff. I don't know. But yeah. Verstappen apparently hasn't been real happy about that. And there's been, like, little things that he's put out there that he'd be willing to leave if things didn't change. So you can't really upset the apple cart anymore, you know?
I wonder how much of that is coming from Max's old man. Because he seems to be the one that's got all the beef with Christian Horner. And I don't know what that's about. I think Max just wants to race cars and drive. Basically what Max Verstappen does when he's not racing in Formula One is he's on his very expensive racing sim racing Formula One virtually.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, hey?
And that's all he does.
Yeah.
It shows, man. He absolutely loves it, and he's fucking addicted to racing. So I don't think he really cares about all the politics behind the scenes. He basically just rocks up and says, give me the best car you can and just let me race.
And that's what it comes down to, I reckon. Like, unless there was a car out there that was outrageously quicker, or you get someone like Ferrari comes in with a Godfather offer, I just can't see him leaving. Why? I mean, the car's so quick, why would he? Yeah. Like, even with the race he had on the weekend, he almost won it despite all of the things that happened during that race.
I mean, he was coming back hard at the end there.
Yeah, a few more laps, he probably would have won it.
Yeah, he was 4 seconds behind with 3 laps to go, and he ended up being just over 1 second behind.
Yeah. I think the driver, like, take nothing away from Hamilton, he just did exactly what he had to do. And that last stint he did on the soft tyres was fantastic. He made them last for longer than they should have. Yeah. But Oscar Piastri, if he had just, like, been pulled in on that first pit stop behind his teammate, and instead they left him out there, and I can see why he would have made that gamble, that it might have paid off, but it just didn't, unfortunately, and it cost him.
The problem they had is that the 2 laps beforehand, he was closing the gap on Lando so much that it made it impossible in their mind to do a double pit stop with both of them at the same time. Because Piastri would have lost out more there because he would have been sitting waiting to get into the pit box. But the amount of time he lost out on that track that was getting worse would have been more than what he would have lost if he had been sitting in the pit box waiting.
Yeah,
we're
and
talking like maybe 2 or 3 extra seconds compared to about, what was it, 10?
Yeah, well, like after that pit stop and Norris come out and he was already on Piastri, like it was such a shame. And look, if they'd run that exact same strategy just a few laps earlier, it probably would have worked. It just didn't work out, unfortunately, for him.
It was a great move he did, though, when he got around both the Mercedes in the space of 2 or 3 corners, and he went the outside line on one.
Yeah.
On a wet track, and you're like, man, that takes some nuts.
Yeah, that was one of those moves that it was like, ooh, that's noted.
Yeah. So it was a very impressive drive from him. He just looks to be getting better and better, and so consistent.
Yeah, that's the thing that gets me. Like he's got the consistency down. If he can now just get those extra things, and as I said, that was one of those moves where you're like, ooh, maybe he does have this extra raciness to him.
And you don't see him do stupid stuff.
No. He doesn't screw up.
He's just so calm and consistent and reliable. Just going, man, he's been around for, 30 races, season and a half?
I just love that McLaren is still fucking up strategies. Like you can even, it doesn't matter who's making the decisions. 20 years later, they're still fucking up.
Some things you just can't change. It's McLaren and Ferrari with strategies. It's basically it the whole time.
Yeah. It's like Red Bull. That even when they were crap, their pit stops were amazing. It's just one of those things where.
Although when they did do a pit stop and it wasn't amazing, man, they fucked up hard. Remember when the year before Ricciardo won at Monaco, he got pole at Monaco, and he was leading that race, and they called him into the pits, and he got in there, and there's no one there with any tyres.
That's right, yeah.
And then he went out, and just as he went out onto the main straight up the hill, Hamilton went past him, and he couldn't get back in front of him. He finished second, and that was the first time we saw him on the podium, and he was so fucking livid.
Yeah, that was a real bad one.
Yeah. But yeah, usually they do all right. But yeah, when they do stuff it up, they make sure they do a good job of it.
I really enjoyed that race. That's back-to-back pretty good races. And the rain obviously had a big hand in that, but still it was really enjoyable, which you can't say about a lot of F1 races over the last couple of years.
Yeah, they've been pretty much a procession. But now we've got to wait 10 more days. And then we're at Hungary. Yeah,
that's one of those races that you don't have to watch.
So we've got Hungary and then Belgium the week after, and then a month after that, it's off to Zandvoort, the Dutch Grand Prix.
So Belgium's always good. And
yes.
What is it, Zandvoort, is it called?
Yes.
That's an interesting track. I like that track as well. But yeah, the Hungarian Grand Prix track is just one of those forgetful, I won't watch that race. I just won't. Unless it's pissing rain.
Yeah, it does go all right if it's absolutely hammering down with rain.
Yeah. But outside of that, it'll be snooze fest.
But after that, you've got Monza after the Dutch Grand Prix.
Yeah, you got to love Monza.
And then it's then we go to Baku, Singapore. Singapore's not too bad.
It's all right.
Then Qatar. Circuit of Americas.
Oh, yeah. I don't think I've ever watched one of those races live because of when it's on. It's normally on at 4 a.m. or something.
So when they made that, well, actually, it's going to be a bit later. So the race will be on at 6 a.m.
Ooh, I might watch it then.
Yeah. But they tried to make that track with what they thought was some of the best aspects of a bunch of other Formula One tracks. And they managed to not do anything
I think that the problem with it is that it just looks like it's a video game track where it could be anywhere in the world and there's no character at all that comes through it. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah.
Because of the big runoff areas, which I get why they've got those sorts of runoff areas, but I think they need to dial back the video gameness of it.
Yeah. I think the runoff area should be completely replaced with just kiddie litter. Like 3 foot deep kiddie litter. So if you go in there, your car just gets bogged and buried.
How about this, right? You got the rumble strip, right?
Yep.
You got 1 foot of pavement, then you've got 20 feet of 3 foot deep kiddie litter, and then after that, a moat.
Moat. Then the other side is just going to be a brick wall with spikes coming out towards the track. If you survive all of that, then you die.
Pretty much.
But yeah, that's a pretty forgetful track. What do we got after that? Mexico, Brazil, the Las Vegas dumpster fire. I only watched the Las Vegas one just to see how they managed to botch it this time. Because last year was everything they could possibly do wrong on that weekend when they first had that Las Vegas Grand Prix, they managed to do wrong. Yeah. So the first 10 minutes on practice 1, a drain cover come up, and so they had to shut down the entire session so they could fix up all the drain covers because there was a bunch of them. And then they decided that they'd run the second practice session, but it would be after midnight. And they're doing it late and doing it at nighttime to appease the viewers everywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So practice 2 was going to start at 2 a.m., but the FIA said that they were going to, not the FIA, the security, I think, that the FIA had hired, said that they were going to shut down access to the venue at 1:30. So all the people who bought tickets to come and watch practice got 5 minutes and then a red flag, and then they had to get kicked out from the venue and couldn't watch anything at all. And then instead of getting their money back, they were given a gift voucher to spend on the F1 shop. That's day one.
That would make me so angry.
So there was footage of people watching the race via their mobile phones, and they're looking at a reflection on a building, on the window of a building, outside the track, and they were seeing the cars go past, and that's how they were watching the practice session at 2 a.m.
It sounds a bit shakedowny, doesn't it?
Very much so.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a massive fuck up, that one. So we'll see how they can top that.
I just think that like it's the first time in Vegas someone was talking about being able to suck a drain out of the ground, and it was just a Formula One car. Like you get someone in it with a dodgy Italian accent saying, she'll suck the drain pipe out of the world. But it was actually a fucking mechanic for the Ferrari team.
Oh, dear. I wasn't expecting that. Oh. Right. What were we talking about?
So Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that massive fucking dome thing. Anyway, yeah.
The ball.
It's an absolute shit show of a Formula One race. They need to abolish it. Anyways.
Or at least turn it into a real, like have something like it's just one of those tracks where it's like, bleh, you know.
Go back to Indianapolis.
Yeah, why not? I was actually watching videos about Nigel Mansell when he first raced at Indy, when he ended up going over there. It was interesting hearing him talk about the differences between the cars and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of that because those cars changed a lot in the 90s. And the way they are now is got nothing like they were back then either.
Yeah,
They're about 3 kilometres longer and 2 tons heavier and somehow quicker.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
They sound like vacuum cleaners compared to actual Formula One cars.
They do.
Oh, well. I suppose that's we've wrapped up this Formula One podcast for the week. What do you reckon?
Yeah, it's been a good episode. I like the intro that we do that involves some rugby league talk. But yeah, our Formula One podcast is kicking ass. So
it's going strong.
Everyone's enjoying it.
Yeah, we're mixing it up. We're not just one trick ponies over here.
Exactly, we're 2 trick ponies.
Bingo. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Make sure you check us out on all the socials. Like and subscribe to us on YouTube. That would be fantastic. Remember, we're chasing that 1 million subscribers. We're at 189 last time. Let's see how that number's changed.
Okay.
Where is it? Let's find it.
Do we crack? At least, I just hope we've cracked 500,000.
We've gone from 189 up to 189.
Ooh.
Right, so that hasn't moved.
Listen, pricks. We need to go on YouTube, subscribe, and then buy a fucking mug, a LeagueFreak mug. Just do that.
Can't be that hard, surely.
Exactly.
How many we've got 1 million listeners?
Something like that.
So we just 999,811 of you need to get over there and subscribe to us on YouTube.
And then subscribe to Andrew's Patreon account.
I mean that'd be nice.
Yeah.
I won't twist your arm on that one, but yeah. I'll just go 1 click a week. If you can go and click the subscribe button over on YouTube, that'd be sweet. Yeah. Just for fun, just for shits and giggles. And then you can comment on all the videos just for shits and giggles. And we might read them out again one day. It took us,
we'll do that.
4 years to do it once.
Yeah, we'll do that soon.
Yes. Yeah, we haven't done for a while. It's an Ask Kenty show.
Yeah, I don't think we'll be doing that ever again, eh?
You never know. I reckon if we did a search on Twitter for Ask Kenty, we'd probably find that there'd be some stuff still on there. But 100%. stuff we couldn't read out.
100%. I bet that there's people that are still legitimately asking questions too, like normal questions. Like,
do you think the Bears will go to Perth, Kenty?
Yeah, stuff like that.
That's true. It's true. All right. Well, thanks for liking and subscribing to us on YouTube. And we'll wrap this one up. We'll catch you all next time.